Thank you, Brett. When was the last time you were provoked? The last time you got peeved, the last time you were irritated, or the last time you were inspired? I hope in a good way you've been provoked today, but maybe it was this last weekend something provoked you. Maybe it was earlier this month something provoked you. But I'm guessing that if we were to start to think about moments when we've been provoked, when we start to take a look back at this crazy mixed up year that we've had, I'm guessing in 2017 there may have been a time or two that we can think of that we've been provoked. But what about this? When was the last time you were provoked by a brand? Might be a little bit more difficult to think about that. Maybe you were provoked when Burger King went through your TV and activated your Google Home. Or maybe you were provoked, like I was, when Taylor Swift deleted all of her Instagram posts and you were hanging on her every word to see what she was going to do next. Or maybe you were provoked every single day, like I am, so provoked by this guy. Agador, also known as the Pooch of NYC. He's my favorite influencer. I'm provoked to laugh every time I see something that this guy does. So whether you were creeped out by Burger King, or you were shocked by Taylor Swift, or you were just laughing at what the Pooch of NYC was doing, my guess is that after any of these instances happened, you did something. You shared it. Whether you shared it on social, or you shared it with a friend, or you talked about it with a coworker or a family member, look what they made you do. Look what they made you do. Sorry, I'm not going to say the song again, but mostly because I hate that song. If anybody likes that song, I'm happy to talk about that at the happy hour tonight, but she's got some better songs. But my point is, they made you do something. They provoked you to share. And if sharing is the golden standard of social media success, then the question then becomes, when was the last time your brand provoked someone? And if that question is difficult to answer, it's okay. I'm guessing that's why we're all here today. Because the reality is, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that the majority of our days look like we go to places like this. We go to the same meetings, we run the same reports, we run the same campaigns, and ultimately, 90% of life feels like this. Like we're standing in line. We have these 10% of Disneyland magical, incredible moments that we have to share, but 90% feels like we're in line at the DMV. And similarly on social, we have these 10% of hilarious Agador moments that we can't help but share, and then we get to 90% of life, which is just scrolling through a sea of sameness. Something we've talked about a lot today is what we're calling thumb-stopping moments. How do we create more thumb-stopping moments to get folks to be as excited about what we're doing as we want them to be? And my hope today is that this is a compass. This is not a 10-step checklist to go back tomorrow to do. My hope is that this is pretty simple, that it's a litmus test of a question that you can ask the next time that you have a creative brainstorm. It's my favorite question to ask, and I'm always amazed at the response whenever we ask this in any of our client meetings. And the question is this: what is our right to win? We've heard this talked about today at length, but I love this question because I love the type of conversation that it brings about. Seth Godin calls this the purple cow. In a sea of black and white cows, of black and white brands that are talking about the same thing and feeling the same way and looking the same way, what makes you purple? What makes you stand out amongst the crowd? I like to think of it as if you were a child and you were experiencing your brand for the first time, what would amaze you? Or think about the moment when you joined your company 5 years ago and you couldn't believe that they did something because they weren't telling that story, and that was something that you couldn't believe that they were doing. Think about those types of things that amaze you about wherever it is you work. I think about that there's really two separate sides of the coin. There's a story that only you can tell, and if you like Mad Libs like I do, it could be a variety of these things. It could be that you support a certain cause, or that you're the only ones in Arizona that do a certain thing, or that people rely on you because fill in the blank. There could be a variety of things, and this could be built out so long, but there's a story that only you can tell. And on the other side of the coin, there's a story that you need to tell. I've seen a lot of you guys frantically writing emails today. You know exactly the story that you need to tell. You've got end-of-year focus. You've got certain objectives that you're trying to meet. You have, we talked a lot today about jobs to be done and fulfilling our customers' needs. That's the story that you need to tell. And I believe that in the middle of that, that's where the magic happens. That's where that 10% of magic that we can live into is within finding that overlap. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about a barbershop called Floyd's Barbershop. Floyd's is a great barbershop. This is the location in Chandler. It's a couple miles from my house. I've gone there for the last 2 years to a gal named Lindsay. They give fair haircuts at a fair price. That sounds like a great campaign right there. Fair haircuts at a fair price. No, that's boring. That's so boring. That's what Great Clips is talking about. That's what Supercuts is talking about. Every other haircutting place, that's the way they market themselves. I had a chance to meet the marketing director at Floyd's earlier this year, and I asked her, I said, what is Floyd's right to win? And her answer floored me. I couldn't believe what she started talking to me about. She said, Jordan, we give great haircuts. You know that. You've gone here for a while, and we could talk about the service that we do and our commitment to our customers, but we care. We care about people that have diabetes. We care deeply for cancer patients. We care about homelessness, and we want to be a part of that solution. She said, see, Jordan, here's the thing. We want to be known as the world's most philanthropic barbershop, and we want to be known as more than a barbershop. Floyd's is living into this, and if you see on social, there's a ton of conversations happening around this. She went on to tell me that they have something called a barber bus, and this is, as you can tell, it's a mobile barbershop, and they bring this barber bus to some of the poorest parts of LA, where homeless people are sad, they're hurting, they're broken, they're carrying the burdens of the world, and then they come in, they get a haircut from a Floyd's stylist, and they leave with a renewed sense of joy, of purpose, and of self-worth. That is a right to win. That's a remarkable story, and we're honored to have a client like Floyd's that's telling these type of stories. Who here listens to KJZZ? Anybody out there in the audience? Awesome. Wow, it's a lot more than I thought. Oh, cool. Yeah, phenomenal radio station. KJZZ, for some of you guys who don't know, they're the local syndicate of NPR. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with NPR. NPR is some of the greatest storytellers in the world. These guys don't need any help telling other people's stories. Some of these podcasts you see here, Invisibilia, Tiny Desk concerts, they're doing so many cool things. NPR actually creates what they call driveway moments. These are times that, say you just made it back to your house, but there's still 10 minutes left in the story. You'll sit in your car, you'll sit in the driveway to hear the end of that story. They love to create driveway moments. I've done that several times. My point is, they don't need help telling stories. But earlier this year, we had a chance to meet the general manager of the KJZZ here locally, and he said, Jordan, we're not telling what it takes behind the mic. We don't tell all the work that it takes to tell really great stories. We're not telling that story. We're not telling about all the people involved. And so we're working with KJZZ right now to give their listeners a look behind the scenes to what goes into creating really great stories. But more than that, I actually had a chance to take a trip down to Mexico a couple months ago to interview their lead interviewer down there and their lead field correspondent. We're able to see a glimpse of these real human stories that are going on. Because KJZZ, while it's important for them to be known as world-class storytellers, it's even more important for them to be known as a community builder. So we're doing a series of videos that shows that they are more than a radio station, and we're proud to help them tell that story. The last example I have is with Ralph's, and we've talked a lot about grocery, and I think everybody's getting hungry like I am. But Ralph's is the Southern California division of Kroger. Their right to win is probably like a lot of grocers out there. They're fresh, they want to highlight local, and they want to highlight great prices. These are great things, but I'm proud of Ralph's for the boldness that they have, and I'm proud of our team for the way that we're able to tell that story. So we're able to highlight local vendors and a whole bunch of folks in Southern California that they work with, that are their suppliers, and we're doing that through a series called The Flavors of California. We're showing the farm-to-table story, and at the end of it, we're emotionally connecting on what that means to the community. And again, Ralph's is a great example of a group that wants to be known as more than a grocery store. So a few very different examples, but I want you to leave with this one thing. And if there's one thing that you get from my talk, I hope that it's this. is that you start asking yourself, what is your right to win? What's the story that only you can tell, and what's the story that you need to tell? If you don't have a right to win or you don't know what that is right now, put your flag in the ground and make a stance. Create that right to win. I've had the privilege to talk with a whole bunch of you guys here throughout the year, and I've learned bits and pieces about what those rights to win are. I'd love to see those stories come to life. And like Tyler mentioned, I love picketing. I love stopping boring marketing. My whole team does. And if this is something that's of interest to you, I'd encourage you to check out stopboringmarketing.com. We just launched that site today. There's some examples of ways that we've been doing that, and would love to talk with you further. So with that, let's go together and let's go forth and provoke. Thank you.